Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Fender American Vintage 2 61 and the Fender Vintera 260s. Now both of these Strats are very nice. They are vintage spec for the most part, including a 7.25 radius. They have the same string spacings. They're very similar guitars. The American Vintage 2 is I think $2,250 or $2,350 right now, and the Vintera 2 I believe is $1,100 or $1,150, depending where you get them from. Right off the bat, the Vintera 2 comes with a gig bag. The Vintage 2 comes with a case, nice hard case. But we're not going to go spec for spec about what's the same on these guitars today. I want to talk about what's different, because this is $1,000 more, and just being made in America isn't covering that. And these are both really nice guitars. Right off the bat, I want to say I like both of these. Despite which one I'm keeping, which one I recommend is going to be different. I'm fortunate that I happen to be in a situation right now where I have both and can afford to keep one. And I'm going to probably keep I'm going to keep the 61. But the Vintera 2 I thought really hard about keeping in place of this. It's that good. So let's talk about the differences and why this really is the better bang for the buck, unless you really, really want everything about the 61. So, right off the bat, the older bodies, while very similar, on the American Vintage 2, we have the nitro finish, and we have the gloss polyester on the Vintera. They feel fairly similar under your arm. They're not a huge difference. This probably costs a little more just because nitro is expensive and pain to work with comparatively. But how they wear is very different. You're going to wear through this finish. It's going to show marks, whereas this finish is going to last longer. It's harder. It's going to look newer longer from just regular wear and tear. Now, to some people that'll matter and some it won't. But that is the first big difference, along with the actual colors. When you look at these two, the paint's fairly similar. The American Vintage 2 is a little whiter, and you have a little more color to your pickguard and stuff, or a little more balance, whereas this is a very minty looking pickguard here with just a tad bit yellower or creamier look to the paint on the Vintera 2. Hard to get them to show up perfect in the lighting here, but overall they look very similar. If you slap some cream covers on this, it will look a lot more like this. So the colors are pretty similar, but they're not exact, so that will make a difference to some people. As far as the bodies go, that's really the only difference, is your colors and the finish on them. And the finish is one of those things that it's up to you whether it matters or not. It's not I can see it costing a little more, but I can't say it makes it a better guitar. Okay, as for the necks, both necks are maple. On the 61, we have gloss nitro. On the Vintera 2, we have gloss urethane. This is a 61 neck. This is a 60s neck. The American 2 61 neck is a little slimmer. In some places, it's just a little slimmer, a little fuller on the Vintera 2, but not bad. It's a noticeable difference when you play going back and forth between the two, but nothing that throws you off. This is very comfortable. The Vintage 2 is just a little bit better. Probably worth an extra $100, 200, maybe even 200 to some people. But again, it's not a huge deal. It's not that big of a difference, at least not in my hands. Now, when we get to the electronics, pickups are one of those things that it's so much of an opinion and personal taste, and so much you can do to adjust the sound of them, that I really will say one is so much better than the other. I personally like the pure vintage 61s that come in the Vintage 2 better than a lot of the Strat pickups out there right now. The 60s that come in the Vintera 2, they sound great. Some people may actually like these better, but you can buy these pickups for $200 or less, brand new, and upgrade this if you wanted to. So if you really like the sound of the American Vintage 2 over the Vintera 2, you could easily put in the pickups and make it sound pretty much the same. So while yes, I think these pickups are better, and I consider it an upgrade, it's not huge, and it's nothing special that you couldn't easily do to this one if you wanted to. So they are better, but it's not a huge difference. Now, the tremolos, again, very similar. On the Vintage 2, it is listed as a pure vintage instead of vintage style, which is what we have here. They both have bent steel saddles. The Vintage 2 has cold roll steel block, where we have just a full block on the Vintera 2. I don't know how much difference that really makes, guys. You have to let me know what you guys think about that. I've been playing this for a while, and I actually have this tremolo on my purple one that I built. So I have some experience with it, but I just don't know that it really makes that much of a difference over this one. As far as the jacks and the pots and stuff, they're pretty much sixes either way. So that's really about the differences until we get up here to the nut. And in the nut department, we have bone, and we have synthetic bone on the Vintera 2. So bone's slightly better, but again, that's something you can replace easy. It's not a huge difference. We do have clay dots on the American Vintage 2. Now, some people may not like that because it might be a little harder for them to see versus the standard white dots. I personally think it looks great with the clay dots. Just a personal preference. As far as the tuners go, now on the Vintera we have the deluxe, we have the vintage style, and on the Vintage 2 we have the pure vintage, single line deluxe, and again I have these exact tuners on my purple one that I built. They are just as good as ones on here. They feel exactly the same. I also have these on some other guitars, and they feel the same as what it's on here. There is a difference between these two that is noticeable. The tuners on the American Vintage 2, they are a little nicer than what comes on the Vintera. Is it a huge difference? No, but they do tune up a little smoother, a little faster. They're just a little better tuner overall. However, I've been quite happy with the ones on the Vintera 2 and with the other guitars I have it on. So again, it's a really minor difference. One of those that I don't know if it would even matter day in and day out. It's really not that big of a deal. But for some players, these are the appointments that make it special. Just a little nicer tuners, got the bone nut, little nicer trim, little nicer pickups, nitro finish. But does that make this guitar worth twice what this one is? No, it doesn't. I love this guitar. I absolutely love the American Vintage 261. But I don't think it's twice the value of the Vintera 2. I think the Vintera 2 they did that good of a job with. The biggest thing is the pickups for me and the neck feel. I mean, realistically, I think there's a $500 or less difference between the two guitars. For my personal value, if I could only buy one, because I did have a rare circumstance happen that allowed me to buy these. So the fact that I have them both and get to choose like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm fortunate I get to do that. If I was going to recommend to most players which one to look into, I would say the Vintera 2. This plays better. This sounds better. This feels better to me. But I don't know that it's going to be that way for everybody, especially the nitro on the neck. It takes a little bit to break in. And I think right out of the case, some people may not like the feel of that over the feel of the gloss urethane. But it breaks in very quickly. But yeah, as much as I love this guitar, and for a lot of players, I think they'll love it too. But for a lot, especially if you're just getting into a vintage feeling guitar, that 7.25 radius, you may not want to jump into something of this value, this high dollar. And this is a great alternative to this. Like I said, make no mistake, this American one plays better. The neck feels a little better. I think it sounds better. But not to be twice the price of this, and this is easily capable of holding up day in and day out with this one. Like I said, for that, the pickups would be the biggest thing. But as far as the hardware, the tuners, everything, this is not something where you need to go, I must have this because it's that much better. This is something you get because A, you can afford it. B, or you're like me and you're lucky enough to be able to get one by bad circumstances. But you end up with one that you can keep, or that you can, like I said, because you can afford to buy it, but also because you really want one. This is as close as you'll get to a 61 Strat without buying a 61 Strat. It's not perfect copy, but it's real close. So this is for certain people going to be what they need. But for most of us, and myself included, really, I should probably be keeping this one and selling this one, just for the value difference. I even have some 61s I could put in this. I have them in my Player 2 right now. I'm not going to. For right now, I'm going to hold on to this. I may end up getting rid of both of them in the long run. Like I said, I have the purple one I built. It's currently got 65s in it. I love it. But it doesn't have the 61 neck. It's got a 62 neck, which is much closer to this Vintera 2. And I took my 62 StewMac neck measurement out, and it really lines up with this pretty well. So this is, if you like the 62 neck, this will feel very similar to you. But the 61 is a little slimmer and I think feels better. So I know I've kind of rambled on a bit here. I apologize for that. But these are both great guitars. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. However, for most players, I think the Vintera 2 will do them just fine, unless they just want the feel of this neck, the nitro, which to be honest is two of the reasons I wanted to try this so badly, is the nitro and the 61 neck. For me, it does make a big difference, but there's no way I can justify recommending this guitar over this one that costs half the price when this one is that good. This really is a nice guitar. So that's where they stand. This is a better guitar. The American Vintage 2 61. Everything about it's a little bit better, in my opinion. But this is the far better deal with the Vintera 2. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, click like and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified. Leave me some comments and suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep playing.